cultures and people do things. And then after that, I got married, you know, doing that American dream. You know, you go to school, go to college, get married, have 2.5 children, and buy a house with a white picket fence and a dog to go by wild. After I achieved that, I, I, I went, my marriage didn't last long, so I started traveling around the world, and to my education, my knowledge and experience, I would put a state, a city, or a country on a dartboard and spin that dartboard and throw that dart, and wherever that dart went, that's where I went. And then I started looking into my ethnicity on what I was, and I called my aunt who was doing the genealogy tree. She told me that I was mixed with Choctaw Indian, Somali African, Irish, and German. So I didn't go to Germany, and I went to all the other places, and I stayed on a reservation in the Choctaw Nation for about a year and a half. I went to the city where my Irish descent was, and I wasn't accepted well, so then I went to Africa and Somalia, and I found the village but didn't find a direct descendant, and that was in Shangani, Somalia, where I stayed for a while, and that's where I embraced Islam and changed my name. And so when I came back to America, I wound up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which there was a culture shock, where environmental shock, you know, coming from Africa to a cold place. So I quickly signed up to do a job exchange. I was working at 3M and came here to Fujitsu, where I was an electronic engineer, and I noticed that there was a lot of people sleeping on the sidewalk, and they wasn't being protected from the elements, because it rains an awful lot here, and when it get cold and wet, it's colder, and it's discomfort if you sleep in the street. So I met with 4 other guys and talking and going into the houseless community, and we thought about approaching the city to make encampment sites where people can be safe and sleep and out of the elements, and they can get the proper rest. And so that's when we found Dignity Village. And after lobbying the city and doing things for homeless people, I left Dignity Village to come back into the streets to see how the homeless population was doing, and I was shocked that it was a lot of teenagers and families living in the streets, and I started asking questions why, and some of them would run away, and some of them was like their parents couldn't meet the high standard of rental history, or they were losing their home to foreclosure. And in a houseless community, if you're a family and you go, they don't have enough family shelter, the women got to go to one shelter, the men have to go to another one. Where do they leave that child at? And that child roam the streets because they don't have enough places for children to go. So they was being educated by former runaways or former people who couldn't be with their family, or people that's been in the street themselves. And I wanted to do something about that, because I think that the children are really is our future, you know, because what I've done is over with. It's what the children is doing now. They want to grow up and become the president, the senators, the politicians, the bakers, the teachers, perhaps. I don't know what people's desire, but they are our future. So I thought within myself, why not speak out against the powers that be in this felony community to help keep families together, because I think the family institution is dwindling. And so I met with a group of people, and we started lobbying City Hall, going to different organizations, going to different social service agencies, and talking to them, and they said the funding is not there, and they had to separate things, and a child. Like if my son was 12 years old, he couldn't go stay with the mother in the shelter because, you know, then he at that age where he knows body parts, and so then he couldn't come stay with the men in the shelter because it's the men's shelter. So we said we wanted to put something together where it can keep children with their families, where it can keep families together. Not only that, where you can bring your pet, and where we don't discriminate against nobody. If you was like a same-sex couple, we allow that because everybody have a right to survive. So that's when we thought of the name of Right to Survive. And in doing that, doing Right to Survive, we lobby for a plot of land that's now on 4th and Northwest Burnside, and we call it Right to Dream because people that live in the streets constantly get harassed and attacked and move like cattle from one place to another place because they may be sleeping in someone's doorway or blocking the sidewalk. And so either security guards or the police may come move them. So we said, well, if people can't sleep and they being sleep deprived, they can't think right. They can't think right. They can't see how to be functioning and getting productive and getting back in the mainstream of society. So we said, well, they have a right to dream too. You know, they want to dream like they sleep. They want to dream on living in a house. They want to dream on having a family or going to school or getting work. And so you can't do this if you're constantly, your rest is constantly being disturbed. Your main thought on is getting rest. The second thought on is getting some food in your stomach. Then once you get the proper rest and proper food in your stomach, you can think better on what you want to do with your life, how you want to continue, you know, in your life desire. So that's when we coined a name where everybody have a right to dream. So, and that's what I've been doing now is lobbying for the houseless community, trying to keep awareness that because you live on the street doesn't mean you're a failure. It means that something happened where you fell through the cracks of society, and because of that, that don't mean you should be held down. It means you should have a place to regroup and re-educate yourself and get back on your feet and get back into the mainstream of things.
And you, Lisa? Do you want to tell us about yourself and the work you do?
I do a lot of the same work, but since he's the nominee,
Oh, is he the nominee? Okay.
Okay. What is your definition of peace, and what do you think, in your own words, is your best way to create peace?
My definition of peace is everybody leave everybody alone. But I think peace is people accepting differences, and that's where peace is destroyed because I'm a Muslim and you're a Christian, you're a Buddhist, or I'm black, you're Hispanic, or you're white. That separate us, and that became a competitive thing where I'm better than you. And that's what our system teaches, is that competition begat separation, and separation begat belittlement, because I'm competing to be better than you. And when I am better than you, I separate myself from you. And when I separate myself from you, I belittle you and say, you're no good. It's just like you are a student and you are competing to be A students. And if someone's don't get that A stigma, that grade, and they get a C, all of a sudden they feel separate than you are. You know how you got honor students and regular students, essential students, but that don't mean they're a bad person. That breaks the peace right there, because now you got people on a higher echelon, and so with that, people feel negative, and when you're feeling negative, you draw rage and anger, and angry at the people that's above you, or the people that's above is angry at the people below them because they feel they don't belong. And so I feel if we can accept differences, no matter what status, no matter what spirituality, no matter what ethnicity, no matter your IQ, then that would bring peace. And what's the other question?
I got it. How does your work contribute to the community, or how does it affect the people?
My work contributes to the community where I give people their morals, their principles, their self-esteem, their scruples, and a desire to want to live again. And it affects the community because I teach them failure is not sin, low aim is. And I record to them that there's 4 main ingredients to your character, and that's the quality of your mind, the integrity of your soul, the determination of your will, and the deepness of your spirituality. And if you're missing one of those main ingredients, that you need to find that to get back into society where you're not thinking that you're a failure because your mind is not as advanced as somebody else's mind. It just means that's not for you. Because I may be a good baseball player, Lisa may be a good hockey player, and you may be a good football player. Who's better? You're just doing something better. So we all need to look at each other as equal. And that affects a community, and that affects a country, because then we all even kill. Nobody is better than nobody. And that way people can move freely and feel self-worth.
What challenges or risks have you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Sometime in my speeches that I ask people, what do they see when they see me? What are they looking at? And now in government, I'm the 3 worst things. I'm black, I'm a Muslim, and I'm homeless. And those